Raise your hand if you've ever heard the story of the three little pigs. I figured as much. Most people out here have heard the story of the three little pigs. We're all familiar with it. Three pigs go off to build their own homes. The first pig builds his house out of straw. The second pig builds his house out of wood. And the third pig builds his house out of brick. Well, you have the big bad wolf goes to the first pig's house, built out of straw, demanding to be let in. He says, "Let me in, or I will huff and puff and blow your house down." Sure enough, he huffs and puffs and blows the house down. Little pig runs off to the next house, to his little brother's house, one built out of wood. Wolf follows and says, "Let me in, or I will huff and puff and blow your house down." And sure enough, the big bad wolf does just so. So the two little pigs run to the last little brother's house, who builds his house out of brick. Big bad wolf came by and says, "Let me in, or I'll huff or puff and I'll blow your house down." Well, the big bad wolf tried several times, but never could blow the house down. For the last couple of weeks, we talked about different Christian chores. We talked about sharing. We talked about serving. We talked about rejoicing. This week, I want to talk about another Christian chore. And that Christian chore is that you need to build your life on a solid foundation. Jesus talks about this in the parable of the wise and foolish builders. It can be found in Matthew chapter 7, verse 24 through 27. Jesus says, "Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on a rock. The rain came, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against the house, yet it did not fall, because it had its foundations on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who built his house on sand. The rain came, the streams rose, the winds blew and beat against the house, and it fell with a great crash." Now, Jesus is saying we got to have a strong foundation to build our lives on. The foundation he's talking about is himself. He is the rock. He is our rock in our lives. We need to build our lives on Jesus, on his teachings, on God's love. When we do that, we're like a house that can stand strong up against the strong winds, the strong storms that come to attack us. Satan, he's those storms in life. He's the one that's throwing the wind at you. He's the one that's throwing the rain at you. He's the one that's trying to knock your house over. He is our big bad wolf. Satan's coming by. He's going to do whatever he can. He's going to throw temptation at you. He's going to throw things at you to try to knock yourself off your feet. But if you have a strong foundation, then you can stand strong. If you do not have that foundation, if you don't have God in your life, if you don't follow Jesus' teachings and the ways, the examples, and the love that God has showed, then you're like a house that is built on sand. And when I hear something like that, I picture like a big, beautiful house built on the beach with a Category 5 hurricane coming. The winds are coming, the waves are coming, the water is going to knock your house down. Jesus says, if you build your life on that solid foundation, then you're like a house built on a rock. You're not going to get knocked over. That is my Christian chore for you guys this week, is to build your lives on that solid foundation. We build our lives on that foundation by reading the Word, by praying to God, by spending time in fellowship with one another, by going to church. When we put God like that in our lives, then we are building our lives on that solid rock, that solid foundation. So that's my challenge to you guys. Build your lives on the rocks, not on the sands. Let's go to God.